Oh, snap!
The world is finally waking up to the crap that's baked into and sprayed on kibble dog food. No longer can commercial pet food manufacturers fool us with pretty pictures and false promises. This is the raw dog food truth. The view and opinions expressed on this podcast are not intended to replace medical advice. Before starting any raw diet, do research, ask lots of questions, and consult your vet.
Well, hello, raw feeders. I'm Dee Dee Mercer-Moffat, the CEO of Raw Dog Food and Company, where your pet's health is our business, and we're friends like my friend Nealy. Piazza doesn't let friends feed kibble. What's up, Niels?
Not much. What's up there?
You know what's up here are bugs.
Bugs.
I don't know what just happened. Like, okay, we've had all this rain, and then it was like last night. And today is an invasion of gnats. And I'm not talking a few. I'm talking a buttload. And you know, a sphincter, thank you, a sphincter load. And you know, here's the thing, when you don't have air conditioning and you want your windows open, you have a light, these little gnats is sort of like the mask that everybody was trying to stop COVID with. They just come right through your screen.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so I literally had to like turn out all my lights and sort of hide from the gnats. But I'm wondering, what is Bill Gates?
It's their last gasp before the freeze.
Yeah, but we don't have those up here. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So I'm like, what happened that they just appeared?
Well, maybe Bill Gates released them on you.
That's what I was thinking. The creepers,
I know, right?
jeepers. Yeah. You know what I was thinking, Niels? I think that maybe some people might think we're crazy because.
Oh, I know. A lot of people think we're crazy.
And here's why, because
particularly me.
Well, no, all the people that we follow, all the people that we talk about, if you were to look them up on the internet, it'd be like conspiracy theorists. They lost their license. They threw out some crazy blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, but weren't they right? Weren't they right?
Well, none of them lost their license. They surrendered them.
Uh-huh.
They weren't, they just refused to renew them. Tom was talking about that the other day. Or no, he wasn't talking about it. I heard it on a podcast. Yeah, I heard him talking about it on a podcast. Well, there was a question about that at one point. Somebody said, yeah, did he relinquish it or did he lose it? Well, he didn't lose it. He never had any issues. He just refused to work underneath it anymore. So he gave it back.
Well, these are the people that just have a real heart and conscience, and they're like, I can no longer do this because it just doesn't make sense. Now,
and what people don't really realize, and Dr. Merritt has made a big deal out of this, the medical licensing boards, they have nothing to do with the government. They are for-profit corporations.
Medical licensing boards are for-profit organizations.
Corporations.
Oh.
Yep. They don't have anything to do with anything.
So basically they just need to make money.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole idea, I mean, if you go back to the beginning with Rockefeller and the creation of the AMA and having to have a license to do this and to do that, it's basically you just have to pay your way into the club. It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
You don't have to really know your sphincter from a hole in the ground.
Well, I think you have to pass a test, but
how hard's the test? Come on.
Right? I mean, if you made it all the way through medical school, right?
How do you make it through medical school not knowing that your dog is a meat eater? I'll tell you how. You want me to tell you how? Because I'm going to tell you how right now. Because I was just looking in Connor Brady's book, In this particular chapter, it's called Corporate Influence in the Veterinarian Sector.
See, it's the same in the vets as it is in the doctors.
Yeah. So he was saying that in 2014, Dr. Longsdale revealed that the contract between Murdoch University and Hill's Pet Food. So he revealed this contract, and for $135,000, they got all of this.
That's in Australia, right? You're talking
Yeah.
about Lonsdale.
Yeah. This is in Australia.
It's the same thing here.
Yeah, this university that had a big veterinary clinic, okay, they would promote Hill's Pet Food in their hospital. They would permit the sponsors, or that's Hill's, okay, to engage with the veterinary profession.
Yeah, they give the students free food for the entire time that they're in school.
They got to mingle with the
Yeah.
attendees. They had the opportunity to provide promotional material to attendees. They had their logo on all the materials. This is sort of like, brainwashing, that sort of thing.
Brand loyalty.
Brand loyalty, that is the correct word. And the sponsor will provide the opportunity to promote the online nutrition course, Veterinarian Nutrition Advocate, to the student 2 times annually. There's a lot more in here that they got for that $135,000 donation.
Well, and that was a long time ago. The stuff that they do now is out of control. Out of control. They basically sponsor the whole college between pharmaceutical and Purina and Hills. The whole
right.
the whole vet school is covered.
So in his book, he gave an author's note, okay? And he said this: if you would like to know more about the relationships in the veterinary department of your local university, here's what you have to do. You have to submit a FOIA request, okay? That is a Freedom of Information request. And he said, you have to write to the institution. You have to ask them for the FOIA officer and address it to them directly. He said, ideally stating the specific FOIA act that supports your request. And he said, the wording is key and often tricky. So be polite, but be direct and clear. And you would want to say something like, in respect of all processed pet food companies with which this veterinary school is associated. They want to know, supply all the contracts. Please, we would like all the memorandums of agreements and your contracts, and ask for all the correspondence. So it's a business. It's a huge business. And I was looking at that because I was talking to someone and they've got itchy dogs. Itchy dogs. What are you feeding? Purina Pro Plan. All right.
Yep.
So if you go over to Purina Pro Plan's website, they have decided that they're going to make their crappy sphincter ingredients look really good. and they do that. And I was like, oh my goodness. So they say every ingredient has a purpose. Every ingredient has a purpose. So they list
but
out
that purpose is not necessarily the health of your dog.
every ingredient has the purpose of profit.
Yeah, exactly.
Niels, have you ever seen in a bag of Purina? I'm just going to ask you, have you ever seen skipjack tuna in there?
No.
Chicken livers?
Well, and this as well as I do, because we live right down by the Purina plant, right?
Oh,
Every time
yeah.
it stinks like, oh my God, like nothing I've ever smelled before. It is atrocious.
Here's what kills me. They say in their food, well, there's whitefish, there's sea bass, there's shrimp, there's crab meat. I'm like,
are they doing PCR tests to find them?
oh, that's a good one. I love that. Go find me some pork in there. And all
Mhm.
you got to do is cycle it up a certain times, and you're gonna find that pork.
Well, and Connor Brady also says that the prescription kibble and the limited ingredient kibbles and all that, if you test them, they're all contaminated.
With
Or various things. I mean, something that is supposed to be a single protein has multiple proteins in it.
here's how
So
yeah,
you're not even getting what they tell you you're getting.
um, they're probably raising like monkey Kong, monkey, dog or
Who
something like
knows?
that in it. And yeah. So they try to make all of their ingredients look really good. So in their carbohydrate section, they say, we only provide carbohydrate sources that deliver sustaining energy to your pets, like wild rice, potatoes, corn, germ meal, pea fiber, long grain rice,
Hence the
garlic,
itchy dogs.
right? And then you go into their oils, and you're
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
yeah, they've got corn oil,
Mm,
palm
mm,
oil. They got it all.
mm.
Oh, but wait, but there's more.
But wait, there's more.
They want the dog to have this great experience for taste, texture, and variety.
So they spray rancid fat on the brown rocks,
No,
right?
no, 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 no. They don't do that. They add the good stuff like lamb broth and chicken stock and locust bean gum.
Hmm. Flavor enhancers and what's the stuff in Chinese food that I'm blanking on?
MSG,
MSG, yeah.
MSG.
Yeah. Monosodium glutamate.
So anyway, I was talking to this pet parent, and they were saying, "Well, we're thinking about switching over to raw, because we have itchy dogs, and our vet told us to give them Benadryl. No, we're not going to take them off the
Mm.
Purina Pro plan. We're just going to give them some other type of crap, which is called Benadryl for dogs.
Have you
Um,
noticed do you guys know how bright pink Benadryl pills are?
why would that be, Nealy Piazza?
Artificial coloring.
And then they want to call. Why is my dog's poop weird colors? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, right?
know.
Oh my gosh. And
And
yet people are afraid to feed real food.
they put them on
Just
hydrolyzed protein then.
yeah, which is dehydrated cardboard and chicken feathers.
Man, it's just, but what I'm saying is, uh, uh, why is it that the people that are trying their damnedest to avoid censorship, to give you the information that you really need, to question the narrative, why are we the bad guys?
Because we're cutting into the bottom line of the uh corporate world, I guess.
So I heard
I don't
this.
know. God
No,
forbid anybody should hear the truth, right?
well,
About anything.
I heard this the other day that those that want things censored, they can have no opposing views. Zero zip. I mean, you think about the communist, okay, or the CCP. I mean, you step out of line and maybe your tongue's gone. Maybe you dead. Don't get dead, as Dan Bongino would say. But anywho, I'm
Maybe you
just
wake up with no kidneys.
right. Ooh. But I again, I just this we have got to help people snap out of it. Meaning you can't feed crappy food. What is crappy food? All processed
Kibble.
kibble, a lot of
Any
canned,
yeah.
and
Basically any commercial food is crap.
yeah. I had a guy the other day. He's like, my dogs will not touch this raw food. They just stare at it. And I said, well, I should have said this because Dr. Jasek did this with her puppy. Act like you're eating it first.
If they're raised on kibble and artificial food, they don't know what real food is and what they're supposed to do with it. So they look at it and they look at you and they're like, they don't know what it is. They're like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. Which is if so many dogs you have to kind of ease them into fish because it's a whole thing, and they're like, I don't know what to do with that. Or if you give them a drumstick or something, sometimes you have to cut it into little pieces. Or um they don't know. Or if you give them something with a skin on it, like a tomato or something, they they won't bite it. You have to cut it through the skin or something, so that they're like, oh, you just have to show them. It's because they don't know what it is because they've never seen it before.
Well, it's like us. If we ate fake food our entire lives and then all of a sudden someone gave us a steak, be like, I don't know about that.
Well, have you ever I don't know why I thought of this. I think it's because I have a friend that has been like touring the world recently. But anyway, you know, if you go to a fancy restaurant or something, and plating and artistry is a big thing in the restaurant world, right?
Mhm.
So, they put a plate down in front of you, and I've seen watching cooking shows and all that kind of stuff. You look at it, and I'm like, I would have absolutely no idea how to eat that. I would do the same thing. I just look at it and be like, okay, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with this. It's the same thing.
You just pick up the plate and stick out your tongue.
Something.
Start licking it up. That's it. That's the way it is in those fancy restaurants.
I don't know. Oh, it's crazy. But anyway, that's what it makes me think of, because I've seen plates come out to judges or whatever, and I looked at it and I'm like, I would not have the foggiest idea how to start with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is not a carnivore alive that is allergic to all proteins. Hear us
Yeah.
roar. That is not the fact. Maybe your dog.
Well, a dog, you can't survive. You can't live without protein. I mean,
No. Wait a minute. You could still be vegan and get your protein, but not a dog. I was reading where they're
well,
making
vegetable. Oh, go ahead.
they're making this new food in Canada for the vegan dogs, but it's a fake kibble, a fake meat kibble. It's really vegan because we don't want to disturb the veganism of the carnivores. Follow that.
So they're making kibble out of fake meat?
Yeah, because these
That's because
dogs are
the
really
people won't
vegans.
eat it.
It's that Beyond Beef stuff that wouldn't sell, so they're throwing it over to the dog
They're giving
side.
it to the dogs.
I'm just like, what kind
Oh,
of sphincter nonsense is that? That makes 0 sense. But people are going to lap that stuff up. They said it took off and flew off the shelves. Now maybe they lying, but I'm just like,
they should listen to Nick Thompson talk about vegan diets for dogs.
what does Nick say? Well, I can
Well,
imagine.
you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Why would you feed a carnivore a vegan diet? That's just dumb.
Next time they do it, they're gonna say we have new vegetables that have animal protein, and people are gonna go, that is amazing. It's not
Who
possible,
knows?
but I'm just saying that this craziness is not going to stop, Niels. It's
They're
just
gonna say here's a vegan food that identifies as a carnivore food.
there it is. There it is. And you must not question. Do not question whether that plant is a dog or an animal protein or not. You cannot question it.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So nuts. All right, so let's talk a little bit. I was talking a little bit about this with Dr. Jasek, Dr. Lee Merritt. Now, I think Dr. Merritt's got some really good stuff out there. I was asking you because a lot of the rabies stuff has been coming up. It's been coming up with Dr. Cowan, coming up with Merritt a little bit. And I asked you if you ever thought that we were going to get the lid blown off of this scammy rabies thing. And you said not until we get the germ theory or terrain theory thing sort of worked out.
Well, until people can understand and accept that viruses don't exist and germ theory is total bull hockey.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna entertain I mean, how long have people been terrified of rabies, right?
A long time.
It's not a virus, it's a toxin.
Right? Which, yeah. So the more you start snooping around and listening and looking at the history of all of these things, right? That were, the Spanish flu, which I thought was hilarious. It started in Kansas. And just,
And Dr. Merritt's done lots of deep, presentations about. She did a pretty deep dive on that. That was all a bunch of hooey too.
yeah, that's so nutty, right? But here's you and I were talking about this. Like, I'd almost be afraid to go to a doctor these days because it's like everything that we thought was true is a little backwards.
No, almost here. There's no way I'm going to a doctor. Well, I haven't been to a doctor in, I don't know, 20, 30 years probably.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it. I get it. It's just, it's like, what if they treat you for something that you shouldn't be treating it for, and therefore prolonging your illness or causing your illness? And I
Well,
mean
that's
that.
all they ever do. What do you mean, what if?
Okay, in to put it in a better term for our listeners, if bacteria is there to clean up junk that needs to be cleaned up, and you get antibiotics to stop the cleanup, don't you prolong the mess?
Yes, which is why you get into these endless cycles of ear infections and UTIs and conjunctivitis and, one thing to another. Every 6 to 9 months you give antibiotics for one thing. That thing either recurs worse or pops up somewhere else. I mean, you get on this never-ending merry-go-round. So, yes, absolutely.
Right. Right. I mean, it's just and the thing is, we have been trained to not see what is right in front of us by design. And you have to retrain your mind. And I see this every single day when pet parents say, well, I'm feeding Purina Pro Plan and my dogs are itching. So it's the pollen here in the state. And I'm like, well, it might be the pollen, but it's more than likely the processed crap that's going into the dogs.
Or
And
the vaccines that you gave them last year,
yeah, or the flea and
or
tick and
some
all that. Yeah.
combination of all of that.
But you know what? I almost wonder, because our crew does come out with the whole story, right? They're like, well, it's not just food, it's flea and tick and heartworm. That's sometimes a little more than pet parents can take.
Well, they need to get over it. My dog had to die for me to figure it out. So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not the gentle ease into it type.
Right.
Right? I mean, you know me. You know me long enough to know that I'm not going to be rude to somebody, but I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm going
Right.
to tell them what I think. I'm going to answer the question. I'm not
Mhm.
going to hem-haw around and, you know, here it is.
Well, I know, but can you not accept it because you haven't um gone through the experience? There's one thing to say, well, I can't accept it just because it's
Well,
I
and
think
you can't just blindly believe whatever somebody tells you. This is true, and I say that too. I was like, okay, well, here's my opinion. Here's what I have learned. Here's what I have found out. Now, if you don't believe me or if that doesn't ring true to you, then you go study it yourself and come to your own conclusions.
but okay, I have an issue with the if it doesn't ring true, and I'll tell you why. Because if you have a belief, Niels, that vaccines are the best invention ever, that it has saved millions of lives, And you hear someone say, if you keep putting that stuff in your dog's body, in their veins, keep shooting them up, you're not going to have a good outcome. That's not going to ring true for them, even if it is true, because their beliefs are getting in the way.
Well, there doesn't matter how you present it. If they're not gonna, if they're that indoctrinated and that brainwashed about it, it doesn't matter how you present it to them. They're not gonna believe it.
Well, that's a
So,
good
I
point.
mean,
Yeah.
it's like Dr. Tenpenny said, she's been doing that and lecturing about that and presenting facts about that for 25 years.
That's a hard one for people, but you if you don't believe it, just do a control. Get 2 dogs. Okay, get 2 dogs. Feed this one dog kibble and just shoot them up, give them all the toxins there. And then have this other dog. Don't do any of that. Feed them a pure raw diet. Let's just look. Maybe your eyes will help.
Well, I mean, we can do that day after day after day. All people have to do is look at our dogs. But it doesn't matter. I mean, lots of people ask me, golly, your corgis aren't fat. Golly, I remember Henry, Henry smells like chocolate. I don't know why, but it was most dogs stink. I never give my dogs a bath, well, unless they roll in poop or something. But my dogs don't ever get baths. They get, when they start blowing coat, they get brushed a couple of times for a week or two, and then they get brushed again the next year. They don't get any of that stuff. I do their nails every week, but other than that, and they don't stink. I have 5 dogs in my house. You can't tell.
I'll be the judge of that. I'm
Well,
kidding.
you've been here.
I'm kidding. No, you're right. No, you're right.
So I mean, there's plenty of evidence floating around, but if people are not going to listen, they're not going to listen. There's not anything you can do about it. So move on. Plant those seeds somewhere else.
Right? Seeds don't grow in the sphincter. So here's a question for you. You have a dog that has seizures. Okay. And you take them and you have surgery on their brain, and supposedly you find a tumor. And so you take that tumor out because supposedly that's the thing that's causing the seizures. You put the dog on phenobarbital.
Why would you do that if you took out the cause of the seizure?
Exactly. And then the other question is, but you don't change the diet and you don't change the standard of care. And all of a sudden in 2 years, the seizures come back. What's causing seizures?
Oh my God, there's all kinds of things that cause seizures. Any kind of, well, the most common thing is the flea and tick, quote unquote, prevention. That's the big thing. Can even be something as simple as a plug-in air freshener in your house or something like that. That can cause seizures too.
Yeah, I wish that the question that was asked is, what is the cause?
Well, there's no way to know. I mean, there's not one cause of seizures. I mean,
well, we certainly do know this. If you keep putting toxins and bad food in them, that can't be helpful.
It's not helping.
And
not
yet,
at all.
And yet, that is not going to be a suggestion that's going to come down from the veterinary community. It's just not. It's never one that I've seen. And, I was thinking about this. Think about it. Your vet will never prescribe herbs unless they're holistic. They're never going to prescribe herbs. They're never going to prescribe real food. They're never going to prescribe anything outside of a pharmaceutical.
That's all they know. That's all they learn. Well, and look, canine cardiologist. I mean, even human cardiologists will tell you that diet is involved in heart disease, and human cardiologists will tell you that. canine cardiologists will tell you that diet didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, they can't have it both ways. Where they
That's what
said
I'm saying.
where they said that dilated cardiomyopathy was coming from,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
grains, no grains, and then it was like, oh, but food doesn't have anything to do with it.
Do with it.
Make up your mind.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of stuff in the veterinary medical world that's like that. They claim both ways. It's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, there's a a lot of people trying to get proof out, as they call them, the receipts, right?
Yeah.
The receipts. And so
The sauce.
the sauce, the receipts, the proof, that's correct. So we're going to try to start moving all of our stuff over to Rumble, instead of, some of the stuff that's out there on Facebook, because I hear that they are still going to, it doesn't matter. They're going to continue with all of that censorship stuff, and the question again, guys, is if you know how many people were injured from these last 3 years, if you know how many dogs are injured because of this protocol they're under, and then you get censored because you're trying to tell somebody something different, doesn't that clue you in? But the way they spin the censorship is, you're going to kill grandma if you continue to talk this way. No, I mean, when you realize that, when, for instance, we were talking about, how they really did try to investigate this so-called Spanish flu, right? Where they were having the guys that were in the brig, and
Oh,
to
the Rosenau experiments with where they were
yeah,
trying to,
yeah,
yeah. Well,
commute their,
and apparently there's, I don't know what they are, and I haven't seen them, but apparently there's multiple other studies, not particularly connected to that 1918, but about contagion, proving that contagion is not. I mean, they couldn't make polio contagious. The only way they were able to do that was to take chopped up spinal cord, put a hole in a monkey's skull, and inject it directly into his brain. That's the only way they when they were able to make the monkeys sick from polio. And I'm pretty sure if you put a hole in somebody's head and directly injected saline into somebody's brain, it would mess them up pretty good, So it's not like,
right? What, I mean, just horrible experiments on animals.
I know, awful.
Horrible experiments. Ugh. I mean, is there no way to do experiments other than on animals?
I don't know, but they certainly don't need to be as invasive as they are to
I
learn
mean,
what you are looking at.
just the stuff that Fauci has done is horrific, and he's not, is he even what kind of doctor is he?
Yeah, well, he's never, the government took him straight out of school. He's never been a real doctor. He's never seen patients, never been in a real setting like that.
And yet he was the one that was up there spouting off all the stuff. For Pete's sakes, you got to look back in history. Hopefully it hasn't all been taken out, but you have to look back on how things were actually created, right?
Yeah,
How, what was going on. The whole DDT, which nobody ever talks about that, because my dad had polio. But remember those commercials? They were just like spraying that DDT all over people.
mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, the kids running behind the trucks and spraying them in the swimming pools and spraying them in the cafeteria at school and all that.
You might
Yeah.
as well say, hey, kids, why don't you just suck on this exhaust pipe off of this car, because it is perfectly safe. All right, everybody. Hey, we just hope that, from time to time we can entertain you here on the Raw Dog Food Truth. There's so much craziness going on. We hope that you can look at things in a different way. Change your mindset. Something that is a new, theme here is change your mindset. Things aren't always as they appear. Maybe what you've learned isn't exactly true. Experience is an amazing thing. There needs to be more and more people in these communities making, communities of holistic practitioners, whether that is through a medical license or not, in my opinion, because these, as you just said earlier, these medical boards are a business and not really there to make sure that you're aiding in the health of any living being.
Right.
Animal or human.
Right.
You guys, if you have a dog that's got the itchies, you have a dog that appears to be allergic to everything, you have a dog that can't get a solid poop to save its life, you need to see Nealy Piazza and get this dog straightened out. For the love of dog, for the love of raw, you got to get this dog straightened out, and it's not that hard. And you want to get this dog straightened out without harsh chemicals, without harsh pharmaceuticals. Okay. There are ways to do it. You may have not been exposed to them. You may have been told otherwise. But if your dog is in this type of compromised situation, it is worth your dog's and your sanity to work with Nealy Piazza. Get over to rawdogfoodandco.com. We can help you get your dog on a species appropriate diet. It really isn't that hard. There is no disease. There is no dog that should not be able to eat the food that they were born to eat. That just makes sense. I'm sorry. It just makes sense, right? So get over to rawdogfoodandco.com to work with Nealy Piazza. You can go to her website, which is wholeanimalwellness.com, WHOLE, wholeanimalwellness.com. Or you can also find her on my experts page under health consults. That's in the Learning Center. You fill out that information and work directly with Nealy. Trust me, you will save your money and you will save your dog's health and your sanity if you get off of that merry-go-round that you might be on today. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Get over to rawdogfoodandco.com where your pet's health is our business. And what, Nealy Piazza?
Friends don't let friends feed kibble.
That's right. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, snap.
Find out how you can start your dog on the road to health and longevity. Go to rawdogfoodandco.com, where friends don't let friends feed kibble and where your pet's health is our business.
Just snap.